Let's talk about that space between knowing you have potential and actually living it. It's a vast and often silent landscape within you, filled with half-finished dreams, ideas you've whispered to yourself in the quiet hours, and a version of you that feels so real, yet remains just out of reach. You know this version exists. You feel its pull. Yet there is an invisible barrier, not made of brick or stone, but of something far more resilient and insidious: the refusal to grant yourself permission. The statement, "you're better than you think," is not just a pleasant platitude. It is a psychological truth. Your self-concept, the story you tell yourself about who you are and what you're capable of, is almost always an outdated manuscript, written by younger hands during times of hurt, failure, or limitation. You've been editing that same old manuscript ever since, instead of realizing you have the power to write a completely new book. The problem is not a lack of ability. The problem is a surplus of restraint. You are holding yourself back, and the primary instrument of that restraint is your own unwillingness to truly, fully, and messily try. Why is giving ourselves permission so terrifying? Because to really try is to make yourself vulnerable to the most profound and frightening of all human experiences: the judgment of failure. Most people construct their lives not around their aspirations, but around the avoidance of this judgment. They choose paths of minimal resistance and maximum safety, where the stakes are low and the potential for embarrassment is even lower. This is a sophisticated psychological defense mechanism. By never truly committing, you create a brilliant, albeit painful, alibi for yourself. If you fail, you can always whisper, "Well, I didn't really give it my all. I could have done better if I'd really tried." You trade the agony of genuine failure for the quiet, chronic ache of mediocrity. You choose a manageable, familiar dissatisfaction over the terrifying uncertainty of potential triumph. This is what is meant by not having the courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the assessment that something else is more important than that fear. In this case, that something else is your own unfolding, your own becoming. Consider for a moment the immense energy you expend in maintaining this status quo. The mental gymnastics of making excuses, the emotional toll of quiet envy when you see others succeed, the constant background noise of "what if?" This is a heavy burden to carry. Committing to a goal, on the other hand, however daunting, is a profound act of energy liberation. The moment you truly decide, "I am going to do this," a significant portion of that internal conflict simply evaporates. Your mind, which was once scattered and divided, begins to consolidate its resources. Your focus sharpens. Problems become puzzles to be solved, rather than insurmountable barriers. This is because commitment is a decision that aligns your psyche. It tells your subconscious mind, "This is the direction. All resources are to be deployed here." The anxiety that once plagued you is often transformed into a focused intensity. The fear doesn't necessarily disappear, but it now has a context. It becomes the nervous energy before the big game, the adrenaline before the performance, rather than a formless, free-floating dread. The next layer we must peel back is the myth of the finished product. Most people wait to start until they feel ready, until they have all the answers, until they have achieved some mythical state of total confidence and capability. This is a trap. Readiness is not a prerequisite for commitment. It is a consequence of it. You become ready by engaging in the process. Think of it as building the bridge as you walk on it. You don't wait for the entire bridge to be perfectly engineered and constructed on the other side before you take the first step. You take a step, you lay a plank. You take another step, you lay another. The clarity you seek about the path forward will only reveal itself to you once you are already on the path. Action precedes clarity, not the other way around. The painter does not see the finished masterpiece in its entirety before the first brushstroke. The vision emerges, evolves, and clarifies through the very act of painting. Your life is your canvas, and you are refusing to pick up the brush for fear of making an imperfect stroke. But what you must understand is that the masterpiece cannot exist without those thousands of imperfect strokes that lead to it. Now, let's talk about identity, because this is where the real transformation occurs. Most people operate from an identity of, "I am someone who wants X," or "I am someone who hopes for Y." This is a weak and future-oriented identity. It places your sense of self in a land of someday, which never arrives. The shift that occurs when you give yourself permission and truly commit is a shift into the identity of I am someone who does Z. This is a present tense, action-oriented identity. The difference is everything. I am someone who wants to be a writer is a dream. I am a writer is an identity that demands you write even when you don't feel inspired. I am someone who wants to get fit is a hope. I am a healthy person is an identity that informs your choices about food and movement today. When you adopt the identity of the person you aspire to be, your behaviors begin to automatically align to support that identity. You are no longer acting out of sheer grinding willpower. You are acting in accordance with who you believe yourself to be. This is the psychological secret to lasting change. You must give yourself permission to be that person now, not once you've achieved the goal. So how do you practically give yourself this permission? It begins with a conscious, deliberate choice, spoken aloud to yourself. It is a contract you make with yourself, devoid of loopholes or escape clauses. It sounds like, I give myself permission to pursue this goal fully. I give myself permission to be bad at it at first. I give myself permission to feel awkward, to make mistakes and to look foolish. I give myself permission to try and to fail. And most importantly, I give myself permission to succeed. This verbal or written declaration is a powerful psychological tool. It breaks the silent, unconscious agreement you've had with yourself to play small. Following this, you must define what really going for it means in concrete behavioral terms. It is not a vague feeling of trying harder. It is a specific plan. If it's a business, it means committing to making 10 sales calls a day, even the ones you dread. If it's a relationship, it means committing to vulnerable, honest communication, even when it's uncomfortable. If it's a physical goal, it means committing to the workout on the days you feel tired and unmotivated. Commitment is proven in the moments you least feel like it. This path will be uncomfortable. Your brain, wired for efficiency and safety, will rebel. It will present you with 1,000 logical, sensible reasons to quit, to slow down, to be reasonable. This is the critical juncture. This is where most people listen to that voice and turn back. Don't be most people. When that voice of resistance screams the loudest, that is your signal to take one more small, deliberate step forward. That step is a message to your deepest self that you are stronger than your fear, that your commitment is more powerful than your comfort. Over time, this rewires your neural pathways. You are teaching your brain that discomfort is not a stop sign, but a signpost indicating the direction of growth. You are building what psychologists call self-efficacy, the unshakable belief in your own ability to handle challenges and achieve your goals. This belief is not gifted to you. It is earned through the repeated experience of facing difficulty and persevering. Ultimately, giving yourself permission is the deepest form of self-respect. It is saying to the world, and more importantly to yourself, my dreams are valid. My potential is real. I am worthy of the effort and the struggle it will take to realize them. It is an acknowledgement that your life is a singular, non-renewable resource, and that settling for a shadow of what is possible is the greatest tragedy of all. The world is filled with people who are smarter, more talented or more gifted than they will ever become, simply because they never dared to cash the check their potential wrote. Don't let that be your story. The courage to commit is the courage to finally meet yourself, not the self you've settled for, but the self you are destined to become. That person is in the room with you right now, waiting for you to simply say yes.